I had this booming business. We had just hit 7 figures in 15 months. And then in December 2022, we hit 200K. So I'm building a team in Nicaragua. I'm building a team here in St. Louis, like all these different things. And like, there's nothing, I mean, like there's failures, but I'm sitting here like thinking like, when is the failure going to happen? Because $2.5 million agency. And I felt like it was just days away from like crashing and burning, right? But it was more in my head. So I share that part of it to say is that like, I was waiting for the moment of failure, but I ended up creating it by like thinking I needed this part. And so I said like, I can't sleep at night, I'm out. So I lost everything. I had to completely start over and send me out of the company. So I got fired. I'm a type 1 diabetic with a 6-month-old. They dropped me from medical benefits with like 2 days left of notice. It's just been insane. We hit 100K in November. We hit 100K again in December. And we just hit 100K MRR this month.
Hello, everyone, and welcome yet to another awesome podcast of Suits and Shoes. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Adam, who has driven quite a bit of a distance to be here today and share some inspiring stuff with you. Adam's story is very unique in the sense that he started from almost nothing, I would say nothing, very humble beginnings, and has built multiple businesses. I think the official term today is serial entrepreneur. Has been featured in Inc. 5000 multiple times, has extensive experience in speaking, and it just seems like family, kids, faith, and there's so many moving components that one may ask what it's like to be Adam. So that's where I wanted to open with before we dive deep into your stories. What is it like to be Adam? What does a day in your life look like?
Man, some days it's chaos. Some days it's controlled chaos. But to be honest, things have been moving so fast. Yeah. And we'll dive into all that stuff. But I'm just very blessed to be where I'm at, have an incredible family support system and things like that. But I tell people all the time is like, I run 1,000 miles an hour. So a lot of people, struggle to keep up with me. So,
well, you beat me. I usually say 120 milos an hour. I'm going to have to start saying 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's easier.
Supersonic.
Roll off the trunk, roll off the tongue that way.
Yeah, super. I love it. Supersonic, 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So let's start with early childhood. What in your childhood developed or laid the foundation for the ultra success that you have now in your life?
Yeah, so I think a couple of different things. I played 4 sports growing up, and then I ended up just playing soccer in high school and then in college as well. But I think playing a lot of different sports and kind of not being the best at any of them, but being good enough in all of them. Yeah. Like I played select in all of them, so I was always good at understanding like where I needed to be, right. And with not being the most talented or the fastest or the tallest, you had to find creative ways in order to be successful in that sport. So I'd say that, I had an incredible family growing up as well. Came from a dad who was a lawyer, ran his own business multiple different times, also was a partner at a large law firm. My grandparents on both sides were entrepreneurs, a bakery and an architect.
Very nice.
So I think I just grew up in an environment where, it wasn't like we were super rich, we were kind of middle class, but I just had the ability to basically follow through and set myself up for success. Yeah. And I'm always the type of person where, whether it's right now listening to podcasts, reading books, meeting new people, I'm always looking for that next little nugget that I can get. And I think just going back to childhood, I was always very interested in like, what is that person doing? It looks like they're successful. Yeah. I didn't know that I was doing it at the time, but kind of backtrack that.
Yeah, I like that. A question parents ask me oftentimes is like, hey, Pavel, how did your dad discipline you growing up? What did your mom do that worked? More so dad now that I think about it. And I always like to highlight my dad taught us hard work. Mm-hmm. I think I had my first job probably in the 4th grade. Mm-hmm. 5th grade, I was already helping my mom clean residential properties. Middle school, high school, back-to-back jobs, McDonald's, anywhere. Like we were just really taught to do hard work. Yeah. In addition, pushed to be really involved in academics. So top of my class, working in multiple organizations, from being president of Boys Service Society to president of some technology club, like very involved. So I feel like that really pushed me to always, go above and beyond and work hard. I don't clock out at 40 weeks. I only start counting my hours at 80 hours because I know my wife is counting too. So at 80 hours is when I start counting.
Yep.
What are some unique things that your parents, whether it's dad or mom or both, did in your life that you feel like really attributed to your success today?
Yeah. So my dad played college soccer. Growing up, soccer was never like my main thing up until high school and then college. So I played baseball and got incredibly burnt out in that. And so my dad became our soccer coach on the club side in 8th grade all the way through high school. Yeah. So he was, college soccer player, but also the type of dad where it was like, you would almost not know that there were other kids on the team because how hard he was on me. Yeah. So, in that moment, you're like, this is annoying and stupid, right? You're like, but that kid did 10 times worse. And then I'm the one getting yelled at because your dad's the coach. And so he took a step back. And then we brought in like a coach that didn't have any kids on the team. That really helped my progression, but also like helped me realize that like my dad was just looking out for me. Yeah. And so I think a lot of it came down to is just like he was harder on me than of course I was on myself, and had a lot of tough love to be able to do that. And then I think like my mom just complimented him very well in how, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I come home from soccer practice and the whole car ride home I was getting yelled at. And then like my mom was there to be like, hey, and I'm like, you did fine. You scored a goal. It was all okay. Like,
so a nice mix of love and then just pushing you to keep pushing yourself further. Yeah. What about moments when you like just didn't want to do something? Do you feel like your parents steered you to continue to focus on one specific goal, or kind of support you in just doing whatever you want?
I think it was a little bit of both, right? Like me going from playing 4 sports, basically all throughout grade school to in 8th grade, I said, hey, I just want to play soccer. Yeah. And so, I'm very fortunate that I had the ability to do everything, and they kind of allowed me to do that. But then as it was getting close to high school, like they didn't necessarily tell me, Adam, you need to do this, but they're like, if you want to go play college, if you want to get super serious with this, like it's probably time for you to get super hyper focused because you're going to be okay at everything. Yeah. And if you want to get really, really good at something, you need to kind of dial yourself in.
I love how you highlighted that, because in my life, it was very similar in the sense of my mom always pushed me to be a banker. Mm-hmm. I don't know why a banker. She's like, gotta be a banker, gotta go to college to be a banker. Yeah. My dad, on the other hand, would kind of push me in a wider, broader spectrum of, hey, if you want to do your business, do your business. If you want to be like, he just kept pushing me. Yeah. And so it kind of worked out for the best. I didn't become a banker, but I'm a shareholder in a banker in multiple banks now. Yeah. And so it's like, it all works out for the best, but it's got to be in harmony. Yeah. Transitioning into starting your first business venture. Yeah. What was the very first business venture that you started, and what did that look like?
Yeah. So the very first thing, so like I kind of like thought I was gonna, do business right out of college. So I tried to like start a business with my buddy. We started a business in college where it was like a social media network just for bars and restaurants in Columbia, Missouri, where we were roommates and played college soccer together. But that never literally went anywhere. It was all the ideas and all this different stuff. So like the first official one that I did was my first marketing company. That's still the basis of our LLC, our parent company. And that was Ms. Marketing. And so in 2018, I was in medical device sales. And I just got promoted at the age of 26. So I went from $75,000 a year to $200,000 that next year with that promotion. And I was the youngest key account manager at ResMed, CPAP company. So it was like the perfect storm of stuff. At the age of 26, just proposed to my wife, my now wife. But it literally like I had everything, like I could have just continued to go. But I had done that new role and was like, okay, I now have the money. I'm not like spending it or anything like that, but like all for what? I always was chasing the money, even though I didn't realize it. And it wasn't because I was going to go spend it. It was the comfortability and the freedom to say, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about what I can buy and not buy. And so I was sitting in a hotel room because I would travel like 75% of the time. So I was in Kansas City, Missouri, right before Thanksgiving, like the Wednesday before, or no, sorry, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And I was like, there's got to be something else. So I went in on my computer, typed in how to make money online. And I got targeted by all these different ads and all this different stuff.
Coaching programs.
Everything, right? So I go back on Facebook and I see this shiny apartment complex. It's this big commercial building, and the ad copy was perfect. It was like, wouldn't you like to own this building without having to actually own the physical real estate, without having to actually like worry about tenants and repairs and all that stuff? And so I was like, that's interesting. So I clicked on it, and it was basically a course that taught digital marketing, taught how to build websites, how to do SEO, how to do Google business profile stuff. And I just bought it, $7,000. I said, hey, I'm going to start doing this on the side. And that turned into me building 200 websites from 2018 to 2020 that I owned and operated. So I would rank them and then sell the leads. I didn't do a whole lot with it. Just built the portfolio up and then went full time in 2020. But that was kind of the first start of where this journey, came to.
That's extraordinary that you were able to see that success so early on. However, fear is inevitable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the fear behind it, and then we'll transition into the failure behind it.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that fear of failure? And then how did you overcome failure when it did end up eventually coming?
Yeah. So I think I always laugh about it, right? Like there's a lot of entrepreneurs that get started because they have their back against the wall and they have no other option, right? They can't get a job. They were fired, whatever it might be, right? For me, it was like, okay, I need to make more than I was making at medical device sales. Not to mention I had employee stock benefits for like a very lucrative situation. And I would have been there the rest of my life. Like I was 10 years younger than the next oldest person in my role. Right. Wow. So I had everything laid out before me. So in one instance, it's like, okay, I'm doing good and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for the average person, but I need to do more because I got to do all this stuff, right? We just had gotten married a year later and all of this stuff. So going into 2020, I basically said, I wrote down on December 31st of 2019, I wrote down, I will leave ResMed by December 31st, 2020. Yeah. And so I kind of just went into 2020 even before the pandemic, but I went like all steam ahead. I was waking up super early. I started building more websites. I started to sell more. I started to do all that stuff. And so basically I had about $10,000 a month in recurring revenue coming in. And I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, we're so close, not realizing like you got to pay tax. I just wasn't thinking about all that stuff. I was thinking top line revenue, right? And so pandemic, of course, happens, right? So pandemic happens. I go from traveling to just being in my home, working from home. Most of our clients are shut down. We're told to take time off, PTO and all stuff. So like I was able to just build business essentially. And then we bought our forever dream home on May 1st. And once I had that, I was like, okay, hey, the back is against the wall, but like now I don't have to worry about quitting this job because we already have the house. Yeah. So the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, I put my 2 weeks in. 2020 and been running since.
Wow, that's extraordinary. Since then or throughout your entrepreneurial journey, failure, it happens. Yeah. What do you feel like was your biggest setbacks through this journey? And then how did you overcome those setbacks?
Yeah, so it was really last year. So I built up that Ms. Marketing LLC agency to about 30 grand a month. And so I was doing all the work in the beginning. Like I didn't know how to run a business. I knew how to sell and I knew how to fulfill. So in April of 21, basically, 9 months later, I ended up becoming a franchisee of a digital marketing agency. Very nice. So I bought into that franchise. And once I bought into that franchise, I went from 30K a month to 100K a month in 6 months. Wow. Because all the fulfillment, the processes and systems were essentially right there. All I had to do was go sell, build my network and do that. And I could sell all across the country. Yeah. So I had this booming business. We had just hit 7 figures in 15 months. And then in December 2022, we hit 200K. So I'm building a team in Nicaragua. I'm building a team here in St. Louis, like all these different things. And like, there's nothing, there's failures, but I'm sitting here like thinking like, when is the failure going to happen? Because everybody's talking about it and everybody that I know is in the marketing agency space is like, Adam, like this is not real. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there like going into 2023, my wife found out she was pregnant in January. And so it was going to be obviously our first kid. Murphy's now 16 months, but I was like, okay, I need to think bigger picture because I've been running rampant with this business now for about 3 years. I can't be the husband and father that I know I want and need to be, just because I'm traveling, speaking at all these events and building this business, and like, I can't shut it off. So a lot of different things were happening, but in our franchise of the digital marketing agency, like the St. Louis location was a third of all 26 locations combined. And other franchisees were starting to get out. They were starting to basically like threaten lawsuits and the whole gamut. So, and I didn't know a lot of that stuff was going on. I knew some of it was going on, but I didn't know a lot of it. So I'm just over here kind of doing my thing. And then I got presented with an opportunity to become a partner at everything. So basically turn my agency over to the parent company, then all my clients, all my team, and become a partner, but also be a VP on the sales side, because like that was my thing, right? Yeah. And so I kind of like played back and forth with it, but I was like, you know what, like this thing is too big. Like I had built about a $2.5 million agency, and I felt like it was just days away from like crashing and burning, right? But it was more in my head. So I share that part of it to say is that like I was waiting for the moment of failure, but I ended up creating it by like thinking I needed this partnership. Because what happened is I did the partnership in June of 2023. I also invested 6 figures of liquid cash that most money I've ever had, basically depleted the business bank account, depleted the business. Yeah. Right. And then a couple months in, we realized like it was not what it was supposed to be. Oh no. So I lost everything. Oh no. I lost everything. And it was more of like, I didn't lose everything because in February of last year, so literally a year ago tomorrow, I went to the CEO and my partner at the time. I said, hey, I can't sleep at night. Knowing what you guys are doing and building and all that stuff, and we're losing money. Like the month before I did the merger, our business profited $50K. I was like, we haven't profited yet. Like there's other things going on that I didn't know about. Right. But I said, my name is the one that's on the line. Like people know our business because of Adam. Yeah. And I merged my whole business. And so I said, like, I can't sleep at night. I'm out. So I lost everything. I had to completely start over. And so luckily I had started Builders of Authority back in November of 2023 as more of a coaching community. And I did that, was coaching people on personal branding and organic social media. But I had to go all in on March 1st. I ended up they basically forced me out of the company. So I got fired. I'm a type 1 diabetic with a 6-month-old. They dropped me from medical benefits with like 2 days left of notice. So I couldn't go get anything. So I went all March of 2024 without medical benefits, as a type 1 diabetic. And then they didn't want to play nice. So we had to file a lawsuit. So all of last year was basically just like one big failure that turned into a learning lesson.
Oh, wow. You've left me speechless, man. That's a side of entrepreneurship that I feel like isn't shared enough. Like I think in the last few years, people are becoming more and more comfortable sharing those failures and those losses. I know I could probably write a couple of books on them. Oh yeah. I once started sharing in a LinkedIn post, and my following started getting a little bit of anxiety. My banker started getting worried for me, so I had to pull back. I'm like, all right, I'll keep telling you guys what you want to hear. Yeah. Everything's rainbow and sunshine. You guys just want to see the rainbows and the sunshine. You know, I'll bottle up those tears in the bottle and we'll throw them in the deep sea. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's not easy going through those struggles, let alone sharing them, but I really believe that I'd hope other people going through it understand that it's not the end. Yeah. I love how Tony Robbins always talks about seasons and always highlighting that winter does not last forever. Yep. And I've been telling myself that every time I go through a low moment in my life, whether it's personal, business, or in any sphere, I would say winter does not last forever. That sun will come and that shine will bring the warmth into our lives. Wow, that's amazing, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. Of course. So having to start all over, I mean, most people don't. Yeah. It's scary. I don't know if you've noticed that, but most people don't start again after that. Yeah. But you decided to start again and you're doing it successfully. What was going through your mind? You're like, all right, big failure, mega failure. Yeah. You know, that's like 1,000 miles an hour you're running and you hit a brick wall. and you're like, what? I'm just gonna start over, start a new business. Like, what was going through your mind at that moment when you made the decision?
Yeah. So like March 1, when I basically had to go all in on it, we had only the ability to do like group coaching on personal branding.
Yeah.
So like the way I grew my digital marketing agency to 2.5 million was me posting on social media, me posting on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, me having my own podcast, being a guest on podcasts. And people for 2 years had been saying, Adam, can you teach me this? And I was like, why do you need me to teach? Like, just follow what I'm doing. But it was more about the accountability. It was more about the community. So we had about 20 members in there, and I had a couple of one-to-one clients, but we were back down to like $10,000 a month just in that like little coaching community. I had my executive assistant come over with me. It was just chaos. I had to then, which got even worse, I had to then pay for all of the overhead that my business still had from our office in St. Louis, all this stuff, because we transferred everything over, and then they were just like, yeah, no, you got to do it all back. So like I didn't pay myself for 6 months, not having anything in the, like, it was just insane. Right. But I am very big believer that where I'm at right now is a series of different events that I just made the next decision, the right decision. I've never done anything outside of what we signed in the contract. I never went public and shared all of this stuff, even though my partner was trying to like tell everybody everything. I'm just like, okay, just go look at the loss. Just go look at the loss. It's all right there. But what ended up happening is we just continued to plug away. Right. Yeah. So we built up that group to about 50 people. I threw 2 in-person events last year to just kind of grow my brand. I still showed up on social media. I still went to events. I still did all of the stuff that I had committed to do. People had no idea what was going on because I couldn't really share it. Now in June, right around Memorial Day is when the lawsuit happened. So people started to find out about it because however, somebody said something and literally all of a sudden it just started getting out on social media. I started hearing about it. So people were like, oh gosh, like what else can I do to support Adam? Because like we know obviously what's going on, but I still had a non-compete. So I couldn't go what I had just done and built up to make me money for the last 3 or 4 years. So everything got finalized in October. So we cut a deal. October, I'm able to relaunch. So I literally announced the relaunch of the business, and we were doing like $20,000 a month in the coaching community thing. Yeah. All of a sudden, just like an influx. The last 90 days have been insane. Of people reaching out and saying like, hey, Adam, I want to do business with you now. Because people had stopped really like, not that they were not wanting to do business, but like it had become so big. Yeah. And also I had partners over there that like it was no longer Adam's thing. And people just wanted to support Adam because they knew what I was about. But they knew what I was about was different than what they were seeing over here. So I mean, it's just been insane. We hit 100K in November. We hit 100K again in December. And we just hit 100K MRR this month. Wow, that's powerful. So like as of today. So a lot of it, like I'm just sitting here of like, okay, why did this happen? And why is it continuing to happen? Because we're getting like 5 to 10 leads a day from people raising their hands saying, Adam, we want to work with you on digital marketing. But it's literally just everything kind of coming full circle of all the punches I took last year. The fact that I still decided to show up, the fact that like I could have taken all of last year off of social media and not built my brand and then tried to restart the agency, which is what I was thinking about doing. But I was like, then I'm going to lose all that momentum. Yeah. And I won't have the same story to tell. I won't have the same foundation to go rebuild this thing on.
Yeah. I just show up, man. I tell my team all the time, companies don't fail. People do. Yeah. If we keep showing up, if we keep pivoting, if we keep learning from our mistakes, there's no failure. There's only up, forward, maybe a left and a right turn. But so long as we keep growing, so long as we keep fighting, the battle, the business, the plan, it keeps working out. I think too many people don't pivot though. Yeah. I think too many people don't pivot. And you highlighted that the personal brand played a key role in that. So I want to expand on that a little bit. You started building this personal brand. Can you like kind of define for our audience what a personal brand is? Yeah. And then how one can start building a personal brand? Yeah. So I tell people all the time, I tell all the students that are in our community, I say a personal brand is what other people think about you when you're not in the room. Okay. I like that. So it could be good. It could be bad. It could be just like, I just know Adam. I just know Paul. Like I just know them as a human being. I tell everybody the goal is, and what I built is for people to be thinking about your business and you
when you're not in the room. So you're having a conversation with somebody and somebody's like, hey, I really need leads. I need a new website. Not only are you like, hey, I know somebody that can do it, but you're like, let me go connect you to Adam. So the reason I'm getting so many leads is I can't get on social media without my name being tagged in, without somebody sending me a referral, without a phone call saying, hey, go call so-and-so. So I've built this up over the last 5 years by posting and building that personal brand. I've missed maybe 10 days in total. I post twice a day on Facebook for my personal Adam McChesney page. Wow. Monday through Friday, LinkedIn, Monday through Friday, Instagram. Again, my own podcast I launch every Thursday, podcast guesting, 2 different YouTube channels, speaking at events, throwing my own events. It's all the things that you can do to get people to understand who you are and what you do. So it's separate from your business, right? Yeah. I tell people like, we still have the Builders of Authority brand, right? We still do our own website, our own SEO, but if you have a strategy around both, you can complement them because people want to do business with people, especially in today's society where everything happened after COVID, where it was like, hey, I just want human connection again, or AI. I don't know if it's a real person or not, right? And so time and time again, people will continue to support the person wherever they go. Yeah. And that was kind of like you had asked earlier, like what was going through my mind. I had a ton of imposter syndrome last year because I'm like, hey, did I just get lucky? Like doing what I did and then latching on and being a franchisee of this agency and then becoming a partner. Like, did I get lucky? Because when I told them I was leaving, they're like, you're never going to make it. Like you needed us more than I needed you. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't think that that's accurate, but I'm also like doubting myself. Yeah. So just seeing this all come full circle, they were supporting Adam the entire time. And so it's continued to play off. So I tell people is you want to build a personal brand because it's infinite return on investment in branding. Yeah. Something happens to this business and I need to go sell real estate or I need to go do something else. I'm never going to be employable again. Yeah. Like I can't even imagine trying to go clock in or do that stuff. Yeah. It's not for me. Yeah. But if I have to go start a roofing company, I also own an auto glass company. I own a Christmas light installation business. I own a landscape design company. I get leads for those businesses that come in on a weekly and monthly basis because people remember that I posted about it a couple times, right? So your business, regardless of what it is that you do in the future, will always have that personal brand.
A lot of business owners and young entrepreneurs listening to this too many times don't even know how to start. And listening to what you just said of posting 5 days a week, multiple times a day, it's overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So how can we unpackage that to, hey, this is a starting point? Because for me, I have now probably 11 total people that oversee my company's marketing and my personal marketing. And so to post, I think LinkedIn, I'm now 2 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Year number 3, haven't missed a single day.
Love it.
Yeah. Instagram, I don't even know, but I know they post a lot because my family and friends tell me, how do I have time to post all the time? So I know it's a lot. And then same thing, 7 days a week. We're posting everywhere 7 days a week. Pushing YouTube hard right now. We're doing, I think, 3 shorts a day, bi-daily posts, like actual posts, and then uploading videos weekly. So it's a lot and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I always unpackage of when and how I started. But before I kind of share how I want to hear how you can unpackage that. Where do I start? Say I'm a new business owner.
Yeah.
I don't have Adam resources. I don't have Adam superpowers. I don't fly at supersonic speeds of 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah. Where do I, as a young entrepreneur, young business owner, where do I start by building a personal brand?
Yeah. So a couple different things. I always tell people is up until about 6 months ago, I didn't have anybody doing my social media. So it was all me. So it comes down to time and commitment, right? Like you're probably screwing around, scrolling social media, but you don't want to post on it to grow your business. Boom. So what I always tell people is like, that's a big thing. People think I have this massive team. Like I do now. I have 3 or 4 people that manage all of my different stuff since we relaunched and have grown. But like I went through, I'm doing so many different things, building this next business. Like we hit 100K in like less than 90 days. It took me a year and a half to do it the last time. I'm condensing all the stuff that I did that I would have like, man, I would have done that differently, right? I would have hired more people. I would have had a virtual assistant or an executive assistant. I would have done all those things, right? So I share that as going back to the basics though. I didn't have Instagram. when I started building my personal brand. I had a LinkedIn, but it hadn't been touched since college. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have a podcast. So for the first 90 days, actually it was about the first 5 months, all I did was Facebook.
Wow.
So again, I tell people is like, yes, here's what I'm doing right now. But what I'm doing right now was not what I did in the beginning. You have to get really, really good. And by good, I mean committed and consistent on one platform.
Yeah.
And then most of our content up until the last 6 months when I brought on a brand manager was repurposed content. So I would just copy and paste the stuff from Facebook that was already working there, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Instagram. Now we're, dicing it up and doing different things based on the algorithm and all that stuff. So it's a little bit different. But so many people are like, oh, I got to go do everything. Well, it's going to be overwhelming because you're trying to start a YouTube channel, a podcast, a Facebook, like all of those different things. So just get started and then don't overthink it, right? Some of my posts, my best posts, are literally just like a little bit of a 2-sentence blurb on Facebook with a little
just something that crossed your mind.
just a tip or a strategy, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times where people are like, Adam, like, but I'm a digital marketer as well. So I coach and teach a lot of agency owners what I've done. And all of them just want to get on social media, make a post and make money from it. Because that's what the gurus and all of the influencers teach. But I took a different approach back in 2020. I said, all of these other marketers are trying to pitch themselves with every single post. Yeah. You show up to their Facebook page and you're like, this is one big sales pitch. Same thing on LinkedIn, same thing on Instagram. Whereas 80 to 90% of my content has nothing to do with digital marketing. It's talking to the entrepreneur. It's talking to the past version of myself of like, I wish I would have known this, or this is something I learned today, or this was a good book, or this was a good podcast. And then when I do talk about digital marketing or personal branding or whatever it is, I tell a story. It's not just, hey, I got this client, 100 leads last month. It's no, they were a roofing company that struggled going through a couple marketing agencies over the last 20 years. We built them a new website. We now run their paid ads. We do all this stuff. But the owner was able to hire more people for the first time in 5 years and then go take a vacation with his family. Yeah. Somebody reading that is going to say, hey, I'm having those same problems. Not everybody can make up a post about getting 100 new leads, but it's what did those 100 leads actually do for the business owner?
It's just so on point. Thinking through the journey we went through 27 North early on, so this like 4 or 5 years ago, it like aligns with exactly what you just described. Marketing agency after marketing agency after marketing agency. And then finally I'm like, I learned what they're doing. Yeah. I learned what they're doing. And I'm like, I can do it on my own and better. Theirs sounds like a robot speaking. What if I just start talking my own voice? So the way I started my journey was with LinkedIn. Yep. Opened a LinkedIn, found an account that I liked, copied everything off the account that I liked, and I just started every day posting. A day in the life, a blurb, a thought, and the engagement just went through the roof. Yep. And I'm looking at what the agency did for my business, so what is working for my personal brand. I'm like, all right, I got to expand to Facebook. Yeah. Create a Facebook to start posting it. And the way I was able to form such discipline to do it every day without missing a single day is I sat and I reflected, wait, I'm already kind of checking it almost every day. Yeah. And I forced my mind to think, if I'm going to take, I have to give. If I'm going to take something from any social media platform, I have to give something. Yes. And in that moment, I opened accounts everywhere, like from Pinterest and Tumblr to like LinkedIn and YouTube. And every time I open any one of these platforms, whether it's to check a notification or to look at something, whether it's entertaining or educational, I have to give something. So whether it's a like, a comment, a repost, posting something fresh, selfie video, recording something. And that's what's formed my discipline to this day of, if I'm going to take something, I have to give something back. Love that. Transitioning to faith, it seems like faith is a big part of your life and your family and your business. What would you say level of importance does faith play? And let's start with your business and within your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, right? Like, I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. If you look at last year, right, there were so many times where I'm like, why is this happening to me? Yeah. And so like, luckily, like, so I would say it's like in a 2 component. It's like my faith, but it's also the people that I surround myself with, right? Yeah. So like when I'm leaning on them for advice or like having a bad day, they're like, hey, like, you know why this is happening. Like these things happen to people that can overcome them, right? And so of course you're sitting there second guessing. You're like, is this really real?
Yeah.
Is there something that like I'm doing wrong? Like, you know, again, all the different thoughts in your head. But I think when it comes to the business part is like just trusting in your faith and staying the course and knowing that there's likely a bigger reason or purpose as to why what you're going through, because it all connects, right? Like trying to separate all the different things. Like, you know, I look at faith in business and personal relationships in a very similar light. Like people are like, hey, how do you separate business and personal? It's like on paper, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
But like to people that are passionate, that are really, really excited about life and faith and business, you're a person. I can't argue with the fact that like I do still care about that person, even if there is not the business relationship there, if they used to work with me, partner with me, all that stuff. Like it's tough to separate everything.
Yeah. I need to have you come speak at one of our inner circle meetings. I think we're approaching 100 members. We just started 6-ish months ago, and seeing the impact on the entrepreneurs, the business owners, even some that are just executives within companies, some that don't have companies and just are curious about what it takes to start a venture and the resources needed. I think a lot of their questions and needs would resonate well with your story. And so let's set up a time for you to come speak. I want to also cover and talk about resources. Too many times individuals starting a business think they need a lot of resources. Whenever we come across a new opportunity, we think we need a lot of resources. And whenever just like through life, we always think like we're missing something and we need these resources. I'm sure you get them quite frequently. I get it probably every day. Pitches. Hey, I need 100,000 to start my business. I need 150,000 to develop this program. I think the most radical question I was asked is probably 10 million to start a business. And I'm like, man, that would have been nice if someone wrote me a check for 10 million to start my business. I started my mom's garage. I'm a firm believer you work with the resources you have. And every time God calls us to start a new venture, start a new business, to pursue another opportunity, we always work the resources we have. I always like to compare business to different walks of life and or spheres of our lives. So business like marriage, right? When we get married, we're not the perfect bachelors, right? We kind of wing it. We kind of like make a good impression and we start, right? We don't go to the pew and say, we want to be ordained today. Can you guys donate to us 100,000 for down payment on the house? Maybe another 100,000 for kids. Well, now I think it's $250,000 per kid, if not more. We don't go and fundraise money to get married, right? We figure it out. And that's kind of my philosophy on business. What is your take on that? What is your take on the resources needed to start something and to scale something?
Yeah, so I think it depends on like what you want to do, right? So I have never taken money to start a company. So I started the auto glass company in 2021 in addition to the marketing agency and just funded it with the money that I had that I was making from the marketing company, right? Same thing with landscape design, same thing with Christmas light stuff. Now, I know other people have different philosophies based on the fact that they want to get somewhere quicker, faster, and stronger. I tell people is if you haven't gone through it yourself, right? I don't recommend bringing on a partner or taking out money if you haven't have that proof of concept yet. Right. So for example, like I know that there are people that once they've started their 4th or 5th business, they go find a partner that maybe has the money that they don't have because it's tied up elsewhere, or they're looking at a real estate deal or something like that. Once you've proven that you can survive in business and you know what you're doing, I think it's okay. But to do it from the start, before you cut your teeth and you really know what it is, because you could take that money from someone and be partnered with the wrong person. And then all of a sudden, like 90 days in, you're like, yeah, I'm not cut out for entrepreneurship. Well, then you have a much bigger problem, right? So I think it kind of depends on the situation, but I do think just going through, and you started in your mom's garage. I just started in my little 900 square foot apartment before we moved into our house, just building websites off a course I bought for $7,000. Like you don't need all of this crazy stuff. You need commitment, passion, discipline, a purpose and why of what you're going to do and why it's going to be successful or not.
I remember the first business loan I took from a investor that was in my life. And this was probably year 3 into our business journey, starting from an RV service center. And he came into my office and he pulls out his checkbook and puts it on the table in front of me. So I'm like, sitting perfect, super excited. And he's like, have you failed before? And I just like, what do I say? And I'm like, I can't lie. I got to be honest. And I said, yes, I have. He's like, tell me about it. And I'm like, which part? He's like, tell me about your failures. And I shared with him 2 or 3 failures and didn't even explain how to overcome it, just the failures. Yeah. So I failed here in this way, I failed here this way, and I failed here in this way. And then at the end, almost like an interview, the way we were taught in school with interviewing is but, and I was about to say but and how I overcame them. And he's like, that's all I need to know. And writes me a check for almost $1 million right there on the spot. And so whenever I get the opportunity to listen to pitch decks, to listen to young entrepreneurs, that's the first thing I start asking now, because now I realize the failures I've gone through over the last 5 years, they shape me who I am today. And in every failure, I hope in one point in my life I can get to the point where I don't question giving up. But in every failure, what's the first thought that comes to my mind? Oftentimes, was it worth it? Is it worth it? I shouldn't have done it. And it's kind of like self-doubt. Yeah. And so I know if a young entrepreneur hasn't experienced those failures, and I write them a check for $500,000 or $1 million, and the moment they experience their first failure, the way you said, oh, entrepreneurship's not for me. Yeah. It's a flop.
I gotta go.
I was like, whoa, I'm out $1 million.
Yeah. That's a real thing. Yeah.
All righty. Next thing I wanted to cover is, and when building a brand, talking about consistency. Mm-hmm. I've observed different accounts through my journey, and it's like pivoting here. I'm going to be a realtor. This person. How does someone stay true to themselves, not telling the world what they want to hear, staying true to their family, staying true to their personal brand? We're talking about personal brand right now. Yeah. Consistently, without constantly jumping at the next new thing over the span of multiple years.
Yeah. So what I tell people is, when you do it that way, when you're authentic and you're setting yourself up for long-term growth, you are not going to see short-term results.
Define long-term. We're talking a couple of months, couple of years.
90 days plus. Yeah. So I look at it like a 90-day bucket. When I started posting on social media, my mentor at the time, who's still a mentor of mine, told me, Adam, do this for 90 days. You will get a client from it. At day 89, I got a client from it. Wow. He was a client for 3 years, sold one of his businesses, and is onboarding next week to do digital marketing with us again.
That's amazing.
And has referred me a ton of business, right? Yeah. So those are the types of things, but that's a long game, right? I didn't close anything. Got a couple leads here and there, but nothing good for 89 days. So I share that with, if you are going to show up inauthentic, if you are going to write on social media what you think people want to hear, you're going to get short-term results. Yeah. But it's going to be the wrong clients. It's going to be the paying client. It's going to be the client that does a charge, but it's going to give you false hope. So again, if you can survive, if you can do anything for 90, anybody can do anything for 90 days. If you can just get in your mind and force yourself to say, hey, I'm going to do this for 90 days. I'm not going to give up. I don't care what happens. I don't care
what people say.
Yeah, because that's a whole other aspect of it. Of people saying, "Who is this guy? What are you doing?" People call me like Tony Robbins. Friends are screenshotting my social media posts and group texting it. All this stuff. It happens, right? Yeah. But on the other side of that, like commitment to that 90 days is what unlocks what I've had for the past couple of years, right? And so, like, I'm literally coaching agency owners that had been stuck at 20 and 30,000 and they're incrementally growing, right? But then they see me go and build this to 100K in 90 days. And they're like, Adam, I'm like, but yes, you've been building a personal brand for 6 months. Yeah. I've been doing it for 5.5 years. Yeah. And I have different things that you don't have with that experience, with that consistency, with that brand recognition and authority. So it's about that, but it's also not comparing yourself. Like, your and I's journey are not the same. Right. Especially somebody who's getting started. Like, you can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 10.
Exactly. I keep an acorn on my desk as a friendly reminder that it takes 7 years to build something in the last centuries. That's awesome. I oftentimes, not only myself, but I've noticed other people make the mistake of comparing each other to other people. And you said chapter 1 and chapter 10. I like to say, don't compare your beginning to someone's end. I've heard people say, oh, I want to be like the next Andy Elliott. 5 days in, they give up. I want to be the next Tony Robbins. A week in, they give up. What is your view on building a brand of that caliber if one does want to compare themselves to, let's say, Tony Robbins, Andy Elliott, whoever these, Grant Cardone? What would you tell them in regards to the work it takes and the time it'll take to get to that guru level in personal branding?
So like the one aspect, right, that I think I struggled with for years is that's all I was striving for, right? It was like, I want to be like the Alex Hermo. Like that was the big guy that I was like, I want to be like Alex Hermosi. I want to be like the Ed Milet. I want to be like the Andy Frisella. Like that's what I was so fixated on. And I wasn't actually like understanding my growth, right? So I tell people all the time is like, I have just came to the conclusion that of course I want to be where they're at one day. But if I can just be the best Adam McChesney, like better than yesterday's Adam McChesney, incrementally getting better and better over time, that's all I need and want. Likelihood that I'm going to go viral in the way that they've gone viral, they've been doing it for a lot longer. They have a lot more experience. They have a lot more failures. They have a lot more wins. They have all these things that I don't have. I just need to be better than I was yesterday. And so I would encourage somebody to say, hey, what is my potential? Like, what can I actually do? Because again, I know certain instances of those people, because they have all of that influence and that fame, like they go through a lot of crap that I'm like, man, I don't know if I'd want to do that. I don't know if I'd want to have like all these haters and all these people showing up to my house threatening. Like there's crazy stuff that happens to those people. If I can just follow the plan and stay the course on being the best Adam McChesney personal brand, then I think I'm doing okay.
What if someone like yourself, myself, made that commitment, made that decision that, hey, I'm willing to go through all this. I'm willing to through the pain and the suffering. What would you say time-wise? Like, can you put a time frame on the length of commitment or the time of commitment that it would take to achieve that level of success?
It took me about 18 months of showing up every single day. And
what about to the guru level?
Oh, to the guru. I mean, man, I've seen people do it in less than 90 days. Because something went viral and then they just went. I mean, the Hawk Tua thing is a perfect example, right? I've also seen people take, it take 5 to 10 years, right? Like they say, like overnight success takes 10 years. What I tell people is that, again, for me, it took about 90 days to prove the concept. At 6 months, I started getting okay. And at 18 months, I was good to where had myself convinced. I started getting asked and paid to speak. I started to see my business, right? Because there's the business growing and your personal brand. The personal brand and you doing all the output is the leading indicator. The trailing indicator is when money's coming in and people are like, hey, I saw your brand. I saw you do that podcast with Paul. Like, I'm interested, right? But that doesn't happen right away for a very, very long time, right? So it's about hitting all of those different angles, but doing it in a way that you're like, hey, I'm going to show up. Like the one thing is it's so funny where people like will interview me on a podcast or they'll meet me in person or whatever. They'll come to an event that I throw or I speak at, and they're like, Adam, you're the same person online as you are in person.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yes. And that's what I preach and that's what I practice. And that's what I do with all these things. But it's what is second nature to us and being authentic and doing all those things. The internet is not that way 99% of the time. So they go in any big name speaker, not all of them, but then you go and you see them in person and you're like, well, that's like, I just saw them yell at that person over there before they went on stage and then they're doing this. And social media is literally a highlight reel 99% of the time.
Yeah, that's 100% on point. I like how you said 10 years. I've personally observed that if you want to build a strong brand, that oak tree of a brand, 10 years. Like 10 years of consistency, 10 years of grind. You put in the work, you show up, you do the reps, you can expect long-term results. So we're like, wow, I can write a book and it's going to take off. Like, wow, I can start a podcast and people are going to want to talk to me. That's why oftentimes when people say, oh, you've made it, I'm like, I just started.
Like, watch me 5 years from now.
Watch me 5 years from now. Give me 10 years. I even started expanding it more and saying, hey, give me 30 more years. I love watching people's reaction. 30 more years?
Just wait.
It's a long-term thing. I'm working on my kids and my grandkids. I want to make sure the grandkids have it. And like, you have grandkids? I'm like, no, but it's that long-term thinking. Like if you can't start thinking in 5-year increments at least, I mean, I think it'd be amazing if people would just start thinking in 60-day increments. I think our spending would go down, our savings would go up. The U.S. would go out of debt. We'd be debt-free. Alrighty, so the final section of this podcast is, we're suits and shoes here. So we're talking about clothing. And clothing is very important to me in my life because I, too late in my life, realized that it's not the clothes that give us or define us. It's we as individuals to define the clothing that we wear. And I wish I learned that sooner in life. And I see individuals of all ages and all walks of life. And I've seen some of the most awkward, uncomfortable situations when someone's in their 40s and they still have an identity crisis in their life, and they're trying to use different brands to make themselves feel or look better. It's just a really sad situation. And in addition, what it's like to be in that outfit. So we've learned what it's like to be in the outfit. What is Adam's go-to actual outfit for clothing?
Yeah, so I was a big believer in like wearing other people's stuff and highlighting all these brands and things like that. Like, it'll be very hard pressed for you not to see me in a Builders of Authority or an Adam McChesney red or black logo.
Nice.
And just standard jeans, right? Like, when I first got started in entrepreneurship, I was going to events with like suit and ties and all that stuff, and I'll wear it from time to time, but it's just not me. It was the medical device, corporate Adam, right? And so, but then I started to get, right, I'd buy everybody else's clothes and I'd do all that stuff, and I'd be going to these events and repping everybody else's brands. And it's like, okay, those are my friends in certain instances, like, sure, do it. But I was scared to wear my own stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it kind of like what you said as well, as it's almost just as well as, or as important as how you feel inside of those clothes, right? It's like, do I get excited wearing other people's stuff? It's like, no. But when I put this logo on, when I wear my own stuff, when I'm comfortable, when I'm like in that, it's like, okay, I can go tackle the world.
That's awesome. That's extraordinary. I think that's one of my most, if not the most favorite response I've ever gotten on this show about outfits. I really appreciate that. Similar philosophy here though. For me, it's like, great-grandfather, grandfather, dad, me. Yeah, I could put on a suit and tie. Don't get me wrong, it feels kind of cool. I recently went to the governor's ball, and everyone's nice suit and tie. Yeah. But day to day, man, just some khakis. I think 6 days of the week I'm in golf pants. Yep. People look like, wow, your pants stay straight all day. How do you do that? I'm like, these are golf pants. They're like, they're what? I'm like, I love golf pants. And then same with dress shirts. I noticed that dress shirts, I hate the traditional feel of dress shirts. Yep. And so one day I was going golfing and it was super cold and I'm trying to make an impression on a banker. And I put on a golf dress shirt. And it felt so good that I ended up leaving it. I sprayed some extra cologne. I wore it the rest of the day. And since then, like for the last year and a half, golf dress shirts. It's extraordinary. Like, it doesn't show sweat. It's super comfortable. It almost feels like a t-shirt for me. What advice do you have, in conclusion, what advice do you have for individuals building their personal brands and just in general in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard. I wish somebody would have told me that. Not that it would have stopped me from doing it. But again, kind of going back to like my entire story, right? I would always have success early on, and then I'd be waiting for the failure. Yeah. I was waiting for the hard. And when I was waiting for the hard, I went and created it when I didn't have to. Yeah. If I would have just stayed the course with my first agency, I'm glad I didn't, because I learned all the different stuff, right? But I would have had a failure at some point or a big learning lesson. Yeah. And it would have just happened. But I was so self-destructive that I think, like, if somebody would have just told me early on, like, those things are going to happen to you.
It's almost like normal.
Exactly. But don't go wait for it. Yeah. Don't go create it. Just know that this might happen and you're going to be able to figure out what happens next. Yeah. I was trying to plan for failure. And I'm not saying don't have plan successions and things like that, but if that's all you're focused on, you're going to get more of what you focus on, whether you talk about it or whether you have it in your mind, right? So it's going to be hard. Don't give up and ask for help. I asked for help from literally early on, but then there was a period of like 2 years where I was like, I got this figured out, right? And I didn't ask for help, and I wish I would have.
Yeah, removing false expectations. I remember, I think it was Dean Graziosi or someone talking about we're a byproduct of what we think.
Yes.
I like to say we're a byproduct of the people we surround ourselves with, but taking it even deeper, like, don't wish and hope negative things. I had one employee that always say, what if it doesn't work? And I said, in response, what if it does work? And then it clicked. And now I've programmed my mind. It's crazy. Like, I literally feel like I rewired some brain connection in my mind to whenever I look at an opportunity or a challenge or a problem, my initial thought now is, what if it does work? I'm looking at a real estate. I'm like, what if it does work? I'm looking at a investment opportunity. What if it does work? And it's literally like leveled or changed the playing field for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on to the show. I appreciate you sharing your, wise advice and personal experience and stories. It's definitely, it resonates well with me and our listeners. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If you feel like you are struggling with your personal brand consistency, in the comment section below, you'll see a link to Adam's website. You're able to connect with him and learn more on how you can grow your personal brand and how essential it is in your business, in your career. So you don't necessarily have to be that business owner. In addition, if you want to be featured on this podcast or you're interested in speaking engagement with me, just punch into Google, pavelbosovik.com. It's the first link that comes up, and you can fill out a form and connect with my team. And then I'd really appreciate if you subscribe, liked, and just left in the comment section your thoughts or tag someone that we should feature on this podcast. Thank you so much, and Godspeed.